You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a historic Joplin landmark fails in its bid for renovations.
We're going to have high winds and low humidity to the tune where red flag warnings are already abound throughout the 4 states, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And an international panel of experts has a recommendation for school kids. Get up and move. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Voters in Missouri and Oklahoma exercised their right to vote yesterday. And while a number of local tax proposals and races were decided, the big story was Joplin's Memorial Hall. $30 million proposal to renovate the historic landmark failed. It needed 4/7 support, and it failed to get even a simple majority in either Jasper or Newton County. The total vote was 2,124 yes to 2,588 no. Well, that $30 million bond would have made necessary renovations to the hall, as well as an addition to include more community space. Over the past year, we've brought you a number of stories about Memorial Hall and the number of citizens that want to see it saved. There's also been concerns about parking from business owners, especially now that the original Memorial Hall parking lot is being redeveloped. However, officials with the city and Connect to Culture say there's more than enough parking in the immediate area for events at either the Bashore complex or at Memorial Hall, although part of the bond was to improve parking in the area. Now, an $11 million school bond in Webb City to fund new classrooms, a virtual learning lab, theater renovations, and a new turf area at the middle school did pass. And storm shelters were the focus of a question for the McDonald County R1 school district. This one passed by an overwhelming margin. More than $21 million will now go for new storm shelters at Anderson Middle School, Knoll Elementary, Rocky Comfort Elementary, and at Pineville Elementary. Southwest School District sought $2 million for a trap range, baseball field, and a softball field. This proposal also passed by a wide margin. In Oklahoma, the Quapaw School District asked for $3.5 million to repair and remodel school buildings. This one passed with 60% of the vote. Staying in Oklahoma, voters in Commerce reject a proposal for an additional 2% sales tax with proceeds to fund capital expenditures in the city. A number of communities voted on used taxes on internet sales, and some fire protection districts and townships also decided tax issues. You can find results from local government and school board races, KOAMnewsnow.com. Missouri Southern decides to not renew the positions of 31 staff and non-tenured faculty members, citing a decrease in enrollment. The school says it had to make adjustments to address the issue. MSSU President Dean Van Gallen says they've reduced the administration and have not filled some of open positions. One professor who was part of the layoff says he found out he was being let go in February.
It wasn't about the job that I was doing here. I had a good rapport with students, I had a good rapport with other faculty. My classes were usually pretty well received. It was really just due to budget concerns. They just needed to make room in the budget. So unfortunately, I fell on that list.
Missouri Southern has experienced a decline in enrollment for several consecutive years. Well, scattered, covered, and chunked with a side of shoes. Wait, what? Well, the Waffle House has a new addition to the menu, golf shoes. Yummy. Obviously, they're known for their waffles, along with their tasty hash browns. Scattered, covered, and chunked means scattered on the grill, covered with cheese, and tossed with chunks of ham, in case you were wondering. And now the breakfast chain has shoes. Waffle House is a Georgia favorite, and thanks to a partnership with Adidas, it's celebrating another Georgia favorite, the 86th Masters Golf Tournament, which kicks off in Augusta this Thursday. So, of course, that's when the shoes go on sale. You can see the off-white color is similar to waffle batter. There's even a waffle pattern, along with 3 dark brown stripes on the side as a nod to the legendary waffles being cooked just right, and the Waffle House logo on the back.
And of course, you can watch weekend action of the Masters on KOAM, complete coverage, and we'll have an interesting beginning to the Masters at 9:34 on Thursday morning. That's right. You know what it is?
Does it have to do with Tiger?
9:34.
Does it have anything to do with Tiger?
Eldrick!
Oh.
That's right. Going to tee off with Louis Oosthuizen. Old name from the past right there.
There you go.
Yeah, so if you needed any more impetus to, watch what's arguably, I think probably the most popular major golf tournament. Myself, a fan of the U.S. Open over the Masters, but if you needed any more impetus to pay attention to it, Tiger Eldrick Woods will be teeing off at 9:34 Thursday morning.
I wonder if you can only get those shoes online.
I don't know, and I don't think he'll be sporting a pair of them. The Nike powers that be would probably frown upon that.
Yeah, Adidas.
Right.
Yeah.
Overcast skies over Television City. Waiting in a little break. We'll get some sunshine here a little bit later on, but let's talk about what we've got already in effect. Red flag warning all the way until 10 o'clock tonight. That's a long time period to have a red flag warning. And just to recap, that's going to mean an increase in our wind and also a massive decrease in our humidity. Turns those conditions ripe for wildfires to spread. Please avoid any outdoor burning today as it stretches all the way from central Missouri through us into central Kansas and as far as north-south runs up to the Kansas-Nebraska state line all the way down into southern Oklahoma. This, and we even picked up a little Wednesday morning rain, now pushing off to the east, just about done with our counties right there. But up by Butler, Missouri almost ended up with an inch of rain in just a 12-hour span. So overnight, it really did dominate portions of the northeastern part of southwest Missouri. Luckily, Little Osage and the Marvinton River up there in Vernon County, we were able to escape without any flood warnings or watches taking effect. Here's where we stand temperature-wise. Speaking of Vernon County, 43 right now in Nevada, 46 in both Anderson, Miami, and Neodesha. Let's roll 47 at Martin Johnson Airport in Chanute. Jet stream sweeps off the Pacific Northwest, comes right over the Rockies. It'd be nice if we could get some of this Gulf moisture and humidity because that would help us as far as those red flag warnings go. But we're seeing all that recede back down to the south. And so this air very, very dry as it then sweeps up toward the Great Lakes. Kind of reset the radar right here. A lot of this down here that we saw in northwest Arkansas not able to actually hit the ground. Radar picked it up. But because that air is so dry up there, really evaporated before it made landfall. And as we get ready for what's going to be a delightful, albeit windy afternoon, at least we get some sunshine and a little bit of a dry spell here as well. Big factor temperature-wise is going to be our overnights that are going to sink back into the 30s here for next several nights before we get to the weekend. But still, great looking Saturday and Sunday. We'll roll mid-60s and then high 70s on Sunday.
All right, up next, Holly Miner and James Coover from the K-State Extension Office stopped by the studio again here to continue our discussion on food safety and fermentation. And later, a 99-year-old Coast Guard veteran shares her memories of a remarkable life of service. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. New research looks at the link between certain reproductive events and the risk of dementia. Plus, there are new guidelines to get students moving during the school day. Wendy Gillette has some of the day's top health stories.
A new study finds pregnancy and older age at menopause are some of the reproductive factors associated with a lower risk of dementia in women. Researchers in Australia say conversely, women who have had a hysterectomy or had their first period at either an older or younger than average age are at increased risk. More than half of cancer patients and cancer survivors experience at least a moderate level of fear that the disease will recur, and nearly 1/5 have a high level of fear. Researchers in the Netherlands say on average, younger people and women experienced more fear of recurrence. And an international panel of experts released new recommendations to counteract school-related sedentary behavior. They include movement breaks at least once every half hour for children ages 5 through 11, and at least once an hour for children 12 through 18. Those are some of the day's top health stories. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, New York.
Well, you may have to be clever to outfox the folks on Capitol Hill, but a different kind of fox, four-legged one, ended its run there on Tuesday. Yeah, that's right. Animal control workers captured the animal that made itself at home on Capitol grounds. It's not clear where the animal will be taken, but a rabies test is likely. Animal was tracked down after 6 people reported being bitten or nipped, including Representative Amy Barra. The California Democrat said he was nipped on the leg on his way to work on Monday. He's doing fine, but he's undergoing a rabies shot regimen out of precaution. However, police warning said there could be more than one fox den near the hill.
I'm not laughing at the fact that people were bit.
Well, it could have been is it a mama fox? Does she have babies? So she was just trying to protect?
I had a fox that used to live in my front yard, and it would follow me around like a dog. So like I'm not. That's why I find it. Stay away from the fox. It's that easy. It's not like it was hiding in the bushes and be like, ah!
I hope they're still looking. So if there is a den of like baby foxes out there, then
why? What would the fox say? Interesting to see that our average high this time of year would be 67 degrees, and we actually had that when the sun went down last night. It was absolutely, what a marvelous evening until that wind shifted, and then it really dropped us down to an average low right there, back down into the 40s. Look at this, we're starting to get a little break. Going to have a beautiful sky eventually as the clouds begin to recede over 7th and Range Line. Down with our rain, kicking it out to the east there, where it kind of dominated portions of the northeastern quadrant of southwest Missouri earlier this morning. But now we can sit back, begin a little warm up as well. We need it. 46 is where we stand. 2 big factors. We're going to see that wind drastically increase. We're going to see that humidity drastically decrease to the tune where we'll have red flag warnings. 45 right now in Pittsburgh. Though Monette at 45, let's go 46 in Parsons. As we reset and talk about our winds. This is from yesterday where we saw 25 miles per hour. Then as we calm down, we're going to steadily increase. But look at this. You can tell where the big shift of it is. And so as we work out to the west, comes in from the north-northwest, that'll kind of be where we get up into that 20-25 mile an hour zone to begin with. Red flag warnings running throughout. They've got, this is a special weather advisory with wind up through KC. Out here, that's going to be high wind advisories lasting from the Kansas-Oklahoma state line all the way to the Canadian border. So no matter where you go in the Midwest, it is a little bit of a blustery one today. Our weather trend going to shoot us up into the we'll go low to mid 60s, so not much of a warm up. This will be a key factor here for the next couple of days as well. Watch out for some widespread frost, especially for Thursday night into Friday and Friday into Saturday. In fact, Friday into Saturday, we've even got a chance to drop below the freezing mark. Luckily, we'll be able to avoid what's coming out of KC. Look at this, they're going to probably end up with some snowflakes here north of Kansas City for early Friday morning. Shouldn't hamper any travel, however. Then we begin a nice weekend warm-up. We'll go mid-60s on Saturday all the way up to the 70s. If not, maybe scrape out an 80 every now and then on Sunday. We'll be back. A couple special guests in the studio. Holly Miner, James Cleaver. We got a Wildcat Wednesday right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It is a Wildcat Wednesday. Fortunate enough to be joined by Holly Miner and James Cleaver from the Wildcat Extension District, and fortunate enough to have them in studio. I want to thank you both for your time earlier, and you can find us on KOAMnewsnow.com. James was talking to us about fermenting beer at home, and we're going to get to more on that in a second. But Holly, I want to ask what exactly we have here, because I'm geared up.
You are.
Safety first, got the gloves on, got the apron on. What exactly are we going to transition to here with the canning and preservation process?
So this is a fermentation jar, and it has cabbage in it right now. And we are going to actually have you take some chopped cabbage and add some salt to it and prepare the cabbage to make sauerkraut.
And I think the great thing about it is, folks, I'm dead serious when I say this, like if I can do this at home, anybody from your kids, anybody can tackle this if I can do this on air. All right, Holly, where should I start?
So I took a head of cabbage and we chopped it up, and this is about a pound. And what you want to do is 3 tablespoons of salt to every 5 pounds of cabbage.
Okay.
So since we don't have, we're just going to add the salt in there.
And that's just normal table salt?
No, it is actually canning salt.
Canning salt.
We want to use a salt that doesn't have the leavening agents, or not the leavening agents, the non-caking agents in it.
Okay.
So we don't want to use table salt.
So I'm going to point this out here. I'm looking for pickling and
or
canning salt. Right there. I can just grab that at the store, right?
Yes.
Okay, now that I've got my salt in there, so what's next?
You're just going to start mushing it up.
I'm mixing?
You're just mixing it, and yep.
Okay, while I'm mixing, James, I'm going to transition over to you because earlier, when you were walking us through the fermentation process when you make your home beer, for anybody who, because you've been doing this a while, for anybody that may find it interesting to get into this, how can they contact you and get started?
Well, they can contact me at any of the Wildcat Extension offices. And so the number for Gerard, 620-724-8233. Or they can email me, jcleaver@ksu.edu. And, we have all kinds of resources with pretty much everything that's fermented or jarred.
Yeah.
And so all of that's available.
Holly, what am I looking for as far as my process here of mixing in that salt? Is there any way that I know it's done, or do I just kind of just have at it and I can't go wrong with it?
So what are you seeing right now?
I see it kind of, I don't want to say clumping together, but I see a sheen on it. I see the salt being mixed in there. And it is, I guess it is kind of a little bit easier to squeeze together than what it was when I started.
So you're breaking down the cabbage a little bit, but the salt is drawing the moisture out of the cabbage.
Okay.
So it's creating the brine. When we make sauerkraut, we don't add water to it because that would make the fermentation not work correctly. So all we're doing is adding salt.
Okay.
And the salt draws the water out, and that's what makes the brine.
That's where I'm getting my sheen from there on the top of the cabbage.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, now what?
So when we get that all, we should
Mushed.
be able to see quite a bit of moisture in it, and then we would just put it in our fermentation jar. These are
What
jars.
am I looking for with a fermentation jar?
So these are new jars that are out, and what we would do with this is we would pack that in here as tight as we could get it, leave about a headspace of about 2 inches. So headspace is from the top of the jar to the top of the mixture.
And folks, this has the delineation marks on here. I know it's probably hard to see, but they definitely are marked right there for measurement.
So we would fill it up, pack it in there as tight as we can pack it. When we're making sauerkraut or any kind of fermentation, we always want the food to stay underneath the liquid. It needs to be under the liquid. When it is exposed to the air, that's when we get the bacteria and the mold and the yeast things growing in the top that we don't want.
Food under the liquid.
Under the liquid.
Okay, does that help me pack the food?
Yeah, so this has a little thing to help hold the food down, and this spring, when it gets in there, it just compresses.
Oh, it is a spring. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so it holds the food down underneath.
And that keeps the liquid on the top right there.
Yeah, when a sauerkraut is originally made, it's made in a great big crock, and they usually put a plate or something on top of it and put some weights on top of it to hold the food down underneath the liquid.
How neat.
Very similar to what James was talking about with the brewing process.
Now, James was talking about with the brewing process, I found this amazing when he talked about the fermentation and whatnot, and that being able to do that at room temperature. When I transition over into something like sauerkraut, what am I looking at temperature-wise, or is it something I need to be wary about, or now that I've got it safely in there, I'm kind of good to go? Yeah,
and 68 to 72 degrees room temperature. If your temperature is lower, and it's probably the same with your brewing, when you're brewing your beers, the lower the temperature, the longer the fermentation process is going to take. Warmer temperature is going to ferment a little bit faster.
Amazing. I never thought about how a couple degrees could make that much of a difference.
And we want to keep this in the dark.
Okay.
So keep it out of the light, out of sunlight, let that fermentation process happen.
How long would you say the fermentation process specifically for sauerkraut would go?
2 to 4 weeks.
Wow, so I do need to plan ahead a little bit. Well, while I'm planning ahead, Holly, as far as people wanting to contact you, because I know you gave a number of classes, also too, Holly's a great online YouTube resource for videos as well. How do we get in touch with you?
You can email me at haminer, M-I-N-E-R, at ksu.edu, or you can call me at the Independence office in the Wildcat District, which is 620-331-2690.
Now, as we look forward into the summer, great hobby for those of you that want to pick up the beer making, and Holly and I were talking, this is gardening season. People are going to be getting ready. Are we going to have any road shows as far as in-person demonstrations?
So we will in August and September. I'll be doing some food preservation classes, but right now we want to get our pressure canners ready. So we're going to do some pressure canner testing. Every year your dial gauge pressure canner should be checked to make sure it's accurate. so that when we're into that produce season and we're trying to do that canning, we know that our canner is accurate, our food is going to be processed at a safe temperature.
And so if you have any questions about calibration or how to safely do that, make sure you contact either Holly or James and they can walk you through that process. I want to thank you for really explaining how easy this is as well. Like I said, folks, I'm not making fun of myself when if I can do this, anybody at home is going to find this extremely easy. And you guys are both a wealth of information.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us on this Wildcat Wednesday. Once again, James Cleaver, Holly Miner from the Wildcat Extension District of the K-State Research and Extension Office. And we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Lawrence Cleaver. Tech Sergeant Lawrence Cleaver served in the Army from 1944 to 1945. Cleaver served in the European theater with the 33rd Armored Regiment. He was a tank driver and during his service earned a Purple Heart, 4 Bronze Service Stars, and a Good Conduct Medal. His hometown, Erie, Kansas. We thank you, today's four-state hero, Lawrence Cleaver. World War II veterans have many great stories to tell from their time in service. For one Wisconsin woman, though, her story is special because she served in a select group of women from the U.S. Coast Guard Reserve that's no longer around. Megan Marshall spoke with the 99-year-old woman about her service in the group called SPARS, which stands for Semper Paratus, Always Ready.
Back at the good old days is something special for Marie Goff.
It makes me feel young again to see those pictures.
She's a 99-year-old World War II veteran who served in a very unique role as a SPAR.
I like the SPARS very much, and I always would be in the company of the best of the SPARS.
She enlisted after her brother died overseas, serving his country. She felt it was her duty to serve.
And after that, my mother didn't want me to join anything in the service, but after my brother was killed, I joined the service.
Goff was stationed in Palm Beach, Florida, and served at one of the stores in the Assembly Hotel.
Right there. See?
These memories she's flipping through are some of her most fond ones, including VJ Day, the day the U.S. declared victory.
It was the most fun because we declared victory, and that was the end of our SPARS.
By her side is her granddaughter Caitlin Dunkel, an Air Force veteran herself. She says her grandma was the reason she joined.
I mean, she was always so proud of it. My grandpa was always so proud of it. They've always been so proud of their service that I was just like, I want that pride. I want to be as amazing as she is.
A woman reflecting back on life, looking at the role her service played, soaking in the joy and pride it brings her.
Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead, coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We've got the dramatic story of 2 people who survived being struck by lightning after leaving a baseball game. The KU stages a comeback against North Carolina. Yeah, we told you that yesterday, to win the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship. We're going to take a closer look this morning at how the Jayhawks pulled it off in historic fashion. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:33. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Voters in Missouri and Oklahoma on Tuesday went to the polls to decide a number of local tax proposals and races. We begin with a big one. The $30 million proposal to renovate and improve Joplin's Memorial Hall has failed. It needed 4/7 support, and it failed to get even a simple majority in either Jasper or Newton County. Total vote was 2,124 yes to 2,588 no. That $30 million bond would have made necessary renovations to the hall as well as an addition to include more community space. Over the past year, we've brought you a number of stories about Memorial Hall and the number of citizens who want to see it saved. There's also been concerns about parking from business owners, especially now that the original Memorial Hall parking lot is being redeveloped. However, officials with the city and Connect to Culture say there's more than enough parking in the immediate area for events at either the Bashore complex or at Memorial Hall, although part of the bond was to improve parking in the area. Now to school bonds. An $11 million school bond in Webb City would fund new classrooms, a virtual learning lab, theater renovations, and a new turf area at the middle school. This issue passes. And storm shelters were the focus of a question for the McDonald County R1 school district. Passes by an overwhelming margin. More than $21 million will go for new storm shelters at Anderson Middle School, Knoll Elementary, Rocky Comfort Elementary, and Pineville Primary. Southwest School District sought $2 million for a trap range, baseball field, and a softball field. This proposal also passed by a wide margin. In Oklahoma, the Quapaw School District asked for $3.5 million to repair and remodel school buildings. This one passed with 60% of the vote. And staying in Oklahoma, voters in Commerce rejected a proposal for an additional 2% sales tax with proceeds to fund capital expenditures in the city. Now, a number of communities voted on use taxes on internet sales. Some fire protection districts and townships also decided tax issues. You can also find results from local government and school board races. Those are all on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Missouri Southern is seeing a 13.6% decrease in enrollment compared to the year 2020. They say they've seen this decrease for the past 5 years. It led to some staff being laid off. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke to the university about the decision, as well as students and staff affected.
It's going to be frustrating what it is, but I think we both realize that there's nothing much that we can do.
Tennyson Williams is a communications instructor at Missouri Southern, but due to a decline in enrollment, he's being let go.
My classes were usually pretty well received. It was really just due to budget concerns. They just need to make room in the budget, so unfortunately I fell on that list.
Missouri Southern has seen a decline in enrollment over the last 5 years. They saw 5,045 students for fall of 2020. In 2021, they saw an enrollment of 4,358.
We've gotten to a point where we need to make some adjustments to address those declines in enrollment and the declines in tuition that come with that.
Which includes laying off instructors such as Williams.
But as part of that, we have found it necessary to do some layoffs and non-renewals for next year, and that's, of course, very difficult.
Some Missouri Southern students say they're already starting to feel the effects of these layoffs. Megan Daniels, a junior at MSSU, says Williams was her advisor.
When I got the news, it was really devastating and it was hard to grasp. He's helped me through so many things. It's really hard to see someone so passionate about what he teaches being let go.
President Van Galen says it's impacted the entire university, but says no academic programs are being removed.
The entire university has had some impact, so it's not just a single department or area. One element I might mention, through these reductions, there are no academic programs that have been cut or eliminated.
But Daniel says she still worries.
Going into senior year, it's going to be kind of, I just hope that morale isn't down.
Staff affected by the layoffs will be able to keep their jobs until June 30th. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Approximately 6% of employees at Missouri Southern have been affected by these layoffs. The Atlanta Braves are offering an expensive yet decadent way for their fans to celebrate winning the 2021 World Series. The team is selling a World Champions burger consisting of a half pound of Wagyu beef topped with a grilled lobster tail and gold leaf wrapped foie gras. But it also comes with a special side, a real World Series ring. All this comes with the staggering cost of $25,000. Why? The team is offering a less expensive option with a cheaper ring, selling the burger along with it for just over $150.
Because the guy paid Matt Olson, signed him to that 8-year deal, decided they weren't going to bring back Freddie Freeman. So that's why they're selling that.
Got a burger deal.
Helps pay for your first baseman.
You got to make money somewhere. Yeah, for sure.
They know that Acuna's going to come asking for that long-term deal. Ozzie Albies' contract's just about up. Dansby Swanson's sitting back there going, where's my payday? And so ownership was like, I got a plan.
And it comes in the form of food.
Opening day, tomorrow. right? Yeah, today's Wednesday. I've been off a day this week. Do you ever get those weeks? I've been off a day all week long. I walked through yesterday thinking it was Monday. Entire day.
Really?
Yeah, Kale finally looked at me and he's like, Dad, it's Tuesday.
I felt like it was Tuesday this morning. It took me a while to realize it's
So
actually
yeah, so it's not just me that's a day behind. I don't know why, for the life of me. Look at these couple gorgeous tower cam shots. This is outside of Television City. I had an overcast start to our morning. Now we're starting to see those clouds clear just a little bit, and really is going to make for a marvelous day. Remember, we've got red flag warnings in effect for the duration of our Wednesday. It's going to last all the way until 10 o'clock. Now, the nice thing is as we get through our daily almanac, wow, that is gorgeous right there. That's over 7th and Rangeline. Temperatures right now in the mid-40s, eventually making it up into the 60s. But remember, high winds and low humidity, that is our danger for today. But get out and enjoy some fresh air, and we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. On the KOAM News Now Instapoll this morning, we're discussing field trips since we have some restrictions being lifted. Thank goodness our local kiddos are able to do a little post-pandemic traveling in the classroom. Our question to you is, where was your favorite field trip? Right now, I still don't know how 49% of you pulled this off and convinced your teacher to take you to an amusement park. Wasn't an option when I was a kid. A distant second place, 21% say the museum. Appreciate your engagement each and every morning. Got a pretty amazing story about a woman and her father who went to a spring training game and struck by lightning and lived to tell about it. Jameson Euler with their story.
My dad was knocked unconscious, so he doesn't remember most of it, which is he has me doing all the talking.
It's not too often two people get hit by lightning and live to Zoom about it. Ashley Moberg and her dad John were on their way back to Chicago today and told us at least what they could remember.
We're big Yankees fans, and we had never seen spring training, so when we heard that the baseball strike had ended, we jumped on getting some tickets, and I've never been to Disney either, so we went to Disney for the first time as well.
But as they ran from a thunderstorm at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa on Saturday, the dream trip became their nightmare when they found themselves trapped under a tree and unable to locate their car.
There was a bright flash and the loud boom that I heard, and the next thing I knew, I was flying out of my shoes and my ears were ringing. I saw my dad hit his head on the ground, and then I hit the ground. I thought my dad was dead for about 10 seconds there while I was lying on the pavement trying to figure out whether I had died.
Her father hit the ground, breaking his cheekbone. The necklace Ashley was wearing burning through her neck. Today they went back to the scene, this time smiling and with a sense of humor.
For everyone who's asking, yes, we got superpowers, and no, we're not allowed to talk about them.
That's exactly why when we get those thunderstorms around here, we pay attention to the lightning tracker and try to bring you exactly where we're seeing the majority of the strikes. Be right back with consumer news after this.
The White House is getting ready to extend a pandemic-era freeze on federal student loan payments, one that's set to expire May 1st. When the moratorium ends, though, millions of people will add another bill to their monthly pile. Michael George has some tips on what borrowers can do.
22-year-old Brendan Rooks recently started his career in public service, with his student debt waiting in the wings.
I currently have just over $10,000 of student debt.
A pandemic-era pause on federal loan payments had been set to expire on May 1st, though the White House is planning to extend the freeze through August. More than 36 million people have not had to pay their loans since March 2020, totaling about $195 billion so far. The Student Debt Crisis Center and Savvy surveyed more than 23,000 borrowers and found 92% of those now fully employed are concerned about making their loan payments.
1/3 of those borrowers told us that in preparation of payments resuming in May, they are skimping out on basic needs like food, rent, and healthcare.
Advocates have been pushing for an extension, and many are calling for loan forgiveness.
I think we can all agree, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, that the student loan system is broken.
Experts say borrowers should use this time to plan ahead and have a strategy when the bills start coming. Update your contact information, sign up for autopay, research repayment plans, and consider income-driven repayment.
While it's this very strong labor market, some people maybe are not making as much money. Maybe there's an income-driven repayment plan that's in your future.
Rooks is planning to attend graduate school in the fall, where he already knows he'll incur more debt. Michael George, CBS News, Long Island City, New York.
Financial experts suggest students limit borrowing to the amount of their anticipated first-year salary. And for parents, your household income is what you can borrow in total for all of your children. JetBlue wants to buy Spirit Airlines for $3.6 billion. Spirit says it will review the bid. Airline had agreed in February to merge with fellow budget airline Frontier, but that deal appears to be in question now. Frontier says the JetBlue deal would limit options for flyers. We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
New champion of men's college basketball won the title with a record-setting comeback. Kansas pulling out a 72-69 win over North Carolina. Tar Heels led by 16 points in the first half. Campus in Lawrence, Kansas exploding in celebration after the final buzzer with Dana Jacobson watching it all happen in New Orleans.
They go to Love. Love's going to be the one to take it. Puts up the shot. It's off. The game is over.
On a night where both teams were on a quest for a place in the history books, it was the Jayhawks clawing their way back from an historic deficit to claim victory Monday night in New Orleans.
There's a Baji.
It was a tale of two halves, with Kansas coming out hot in the first, jumping out to a quick lead in the opening minutes.
Take the jumper. How about these two, huh?
Only to have that flame doused by gritty plays on the inside from 6'10 center Armando Bacot. Bacot's defense allowing the Tar Heels offense to capitalize.
It's live action, Tracy. It's live action out there.
And after taking a blow to the head, forward Brady Manick used his range to help North Carolina take a 15-point lead over the Jayhawks at the half.
Nice play on the... Oh, there you go.
But the game was far from over.
The challenge Love, and the game's down to 1.
Kansas would return from the locker room with a new energy, using a 12-1 run to cut into the lead.
Great throw to screen by McCormick. Martin shot. Oh! Whoa, the little guy.
Both teams would trade big plays in the closing minutes. The Jayhawks ultimately outlasting the Tar Heels, the first team ever to overcome a 15-point halftime deficit to win the title. KU's fourth, head coach Bill Self's second, just months after losing his father.
He always felt that, nothing was ever given, everything had to be earned. And so I think he would be very proud of this team.
KU's Ochai Agbaji, 7 of 11 from 3 in the Final Four, named its most outstanding player, celebrating the moment with his family after.
What is this moment like?
I don't really know how to explain it right now. Being in this moment and knowing that we succeeded is just a great feeling.
As for the second half rally, head coach Bill Self said he asked his team to be tougher, coming from 9 down with 2 minutes to play, or being down 15 with 20 to play. All said that first situation, which just happened to be what Self's team was facing back in 2008. Of course, that's when they had Mario's miracle, went on to win Bill Self in his first title, and now his Kansas teams have done both. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. The U.S. and its European allies are unveiling new economic sanctions against Russia. The latest round of penalties comes amid new allegations of war crimes by Russian soldiers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Kremlin must be accountable for the atrocities committed against civilians. And yesterday, Ivanka Trump testified before the Congressional Committee investigating last year's Capitol Hill riot. The former president's daughter was one of his senior White House advisors and was with him on January 6th. She spent about 8 hours answering questions behind closed doors. Tiger Woods is planning to play in the Masters tournament this week and says he believes he could win. Woods has not competed in a PGA event since November of 2020. 14 months ago, he nearly lost his right leg in a crash. 46-year-old is scheduled to tee off on Thursday at 10:34 a.m.
In the words of Chris Rock, Tiger Woods, y'all. It's all good, y'all. Rain finally moving out to the east, so we're going to get a little bit of a dry spell here as we head toward the weekend. The sporadic rainfall that we've had past several days has now concluded, and where'd the clouds go? What a gorgeous shot over 7th and Rangeline now that we've got blue sky and sunshine and temperatures going to begin the upward trend, because it was a little cool this morning. And speaking of upward trends, we'll also see the wind increase to around 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting at 35 miles per hour. And while that happens, remember our humidity does the exact opposite as it drops down to around 25 to 30%. That's going to give us the red flag warnings that last all the way till 10 o'clock tonight. Avoid any outdoor burning and get ready for 30s here overnight as we head toward the weekend. Chilly afternoons on Thursday and Friday, only in the 50s, but then we've got 64 on Saturday, 70s with sunny skies on Sunday. I want to thank you all for letting us put the good in your morning. Be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.